Ja. Okidok. Ska vi se vad vi ska hitta på idag då? Oh, sorry. Oh, it's English. Sorry, I forgot. Okay, let's see what we are going through today. Yeah. So we'll be here all day. And as you see, the manager of the schedule, he sort of upgraded us. So nice of him. And yeah, let's see what I wrote down here. I have some kind of agenda here. So let's just 1, 2, 3. There we go, something like that. So we have a few things to do. It's called, what is it? Section 02 today. And we're going to do it all today. It's not, I shouldn't say it's not too hard. Depends, always depends. But it's not too much stuff to do. It's not too technical stuff to do. But things we talk about will be sort of the basis, foundation for most of the web work you would do. So to wrap it up, we'll talk about HTML, CSS, JavaScript on the client side, a bit, tiny. We'll take this work report page and set it up and play around with it. And before lunch, I talk. Maybe I show some stuff, but mainly I talk. And after lunch, we do like we did last time. We do some coding and just make it up and running. So if you already has it up and running, after lunch, I will show you how to get it up and running, and I will go with start review the code. This is HTML. Let's look at the file. Maybe change it. This is CSS. Let's try and style some stuff. And I'll try to add some basic JavaScript to the web page, just to see how it works. So that is the plan for today. Next week, we'll do 03 on Monday, and that is JavaScript client-side coding. So we walk through the JavaScript coding language, and we do some programming. On next Friday, so it's section 04, we do JavaScript on the server side. So it's also going to be programming, hands-on, Node.js, Express. Oh, we're going to set up a web application with routes. Okay. So next week is a sort of JavaScript week. Okay. Let's see what I wrote here. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about that. Maybe I'll do that. Yeah, I'm going to have this slide. Then we're going to have lunch. And then we'll do that. Yeah. So, okay. Before we start, I'll at the end of the course, you're going to hand in all these assignments that we do, hands-on laboratory work, right? So it's going to be one deadline at the end of the course. At the same week, more or less, you're going to hand in the project work. And at the same week, more or less, you're going to do this sort of whole examination. So, 3 things. And then you're going to have 2 more whole examinations. And I have booked one, and it's 3 weeks after the first one. Is that what you are sort of used to?
2, 3 steps to the first one.
Okay. And then the last one, I plan to have it before the summer. I roughly schedule it in the mid-June, but I think I'm gonna, so this is your last year here, so I think I put it in sort of mid-May instead. Sounds reasonable? Yeah, okay. So then that's the plan. And you're gonna get one more try if you fail to submit the assignments and the project. You're gonna get one more try. When should that try be? Maybe I put that try in mid-May also. Better to have mid-May than mid-April.
Yeah.
Mid-May. Yeah, so it's the same where with the last whole examination will be. Okay? Yeah. Once I have sort of scheduled all that, I'll let you know on Canvas. Okay, good. So, about the project. I suggest you work in pairs of 2 or 3. Let's be 3. 3 is a nice number. I might be okay with 4. Yeah, it's okay with 2, but I prefer 3. I don't want you to be alone. Too many projects to deal with. Okay. I haven't decided, but maybe it's easier to get a higher grade if you are 3. Not 4. I haven't really decided. About the techniques, I told you last time that I was going to talk to David. And so he told me he didn't really care what kind of techniques we used in the projects. So I'm thinking about having that sort of not completely open, but in the course we're going to deal with C# and .NET, so that is one technique. We're going to talk about PHP, so that's one technique. We're going to talk about Node.js, JavaScript, Express, so that would be another technique. So it's 3 different sort of back-end techniques that you can choose from. The project will contain some kind of front end also. Of course, there will be JavaScript and some way then HTML, CSS. You may choose front end frameworks if you feel like it, but yeah. So it's a bit open choice what you do. There will be a rough requirement specification that you're going to do, and until I have written it, it looks like sort of something should happen on the front end. We should do some asynchronous request doing fetch or something like that. On the back end, you should connect to a database. You should provide some kind of session management login. And you should do some create, read, update, delete in the database using HTML forms or something like that. So some kind of, well, some basic stuff when you're setting up a web application. Okay, just so you can mentally prepare. Questions? No. Okay, and show it off? No, we move on to that. We'll do this in the afternoon at least. So let me have a slide. Show. I just want to see if it's out here. Is it out here? Oops, it was there. Okay, let's run it from there. If you want to sort of get the slideshow. It's in the course repo. I put it there on this website, and it's basically found by doing github.com/webprogrammering in Swedish, websoft, webprogrammering. Okay. Yes. Looks how we did it. And my GitHub is there. I found slides. I do that. Okay, yeah, something like that. Okay. So I just walk you through HTML, CSS, JavaScript, some basics that is very useful and handy to know about when we move on. And at the end of the lecture, we'll look through the current state of JavaScript frameworks. And that is what will sort of be in front of you if you come out as a web developer in this summer. So let's see what that could be. But before that, we're going to through this stuff. Just put up. Okay. Yeah. HTML page. It's a text file. It's a markup language. It's filled with these HTML elements. And basically looking like this. This is a paragraph. This is the start tag. This is the end tag. Whoops. End tag. And between those tags, it's the content going to be displayed. So it's we are doing markup around the content to explain what it is, and also how I assume it's going to be styled. And we can add attributes to this HTML element and add value to those attributes, and it's a long list of attributes that we can put into these elements. And this is the one of the most common. It's saying that let's style this paragraph according to this CSS class, and the CSS class is called blog. So let's assume that this paragraph is going to be styled as a blog. Yeah. So it's the basic setup of all HTML elements. Good. Move on. There are a few sort of single tag elements. They have a start tag and an end tag within them. So these are, it's a break, it's a horizontal rule. No, two of those. So it really doesn't have a content. It's just sort of mainly a formatting thing. Put the horizontal rule here. Make a hard break here. Okay, so those can appear also. We have a basic structure. The page or the document, we can call it a document, it has a basic structure. It usually always starts with a doc type, saying this is an HTML document type. Okay. Then the browser who gets it will know how to sort of deal with it. I should treat this as HTML document. Then we wrap all the document content in an HTML element. Within this element, there are basically two parts. It's the head and the body. And the head is sort of it's not displayed. So you could call it meta information about the documents being displayed. So it could be a lot of things, but not the actual content being displayed as text images in the web page, so to say. So we have the head, we have the body, there is the actual body. Text, images, headlines. So it's a basic structure. And this is a HTML document. This structure and the order of the HTML elements in a document it should come in some order, should look nice, should apply to the HTML standard of some version. So it should validate. It's a markup language, the tags should come in this order, so we can validate it. Is it okay? To the standard, yes, no. And if you put up there, or not you, some other guy, put up a bad, misformed HTML element, sort of putting out trash on the World Wide Web, it's not nice of him. He, she, it makes it much more harder for the web browsers to display the documents malformed. So we should all try to do sort of well-formed document. It looks better for our users. It makes it easier for the browsers to parse our documents. And so this is a document. Would it validate? Would it be according to the actual sort of HTML standard? Well, to actually know, we should either we should read up on the standard and see how it looks like. That's it. That we could do. Take some time, practice. We could put this through a validator. There are some links to the HTML validator later on in the slide, and put it up there to see if it validates. And we want this green checkbox. Yeah, does it validate? Yes, it validates, but it misses the head element. Yeah, head element is optional. Okay, so there are optional elements. The body element is also missing. The whole HTML element is missing. So all of those elements are optional according to the standard. So then let's think as a browser. I get this document, I start to parse it. Some things are optional, other are not. So I'm a browser, I'm following the standard, and then I get this sort of malformed. And then I have to guess. And so the browser does that. It guesses, follows according to the standard, and then puts up the document for us. But this will work. So it's a lot of optional stuff. These two here, are these two here. We should say that these are mandatory. So we should really put up a character set there. It's for the browser to know how sort of or these special type of characters should be parsed or interpreted. It's not too much of an issue now more. Mainly all of the stuff is UTF-8 out there. And it's a default behavior, so it might work even if you doesn't put it in there. But to be sure, ensure that your text editor is always writing out your documents as UTF-8, and that is sort of the standard character encoding format you are using. It will basically keep you out of trouble. And yeah. Let's move on. So I don't really know how many elements it is in the standard. I really don't care. I could look it up if I want to. Last time I looked it up, I calculated like 120 HTML elements within the standard. And there are some small standards in various ways, putting micro information into the web page. So it's a lot of elements and parts of it. If we move on to any sort of basic HTML website, I think we'll find like they use maybe up to 20 or 40 HTML elements, not too many. I think I can, one website that I done, I think I checked it up and I thought, okay, somewhere in between 20 to 40 elements, depends on if I have a table or lists or figures. It's not too many elements we basically need to use to put up a website. So it's a small subset of all those available. And I don't think you need to be that concerned about these standards anymore. Roll back 3-4 years, I would say, oh, standards is an issue. There's many standards out there and they are competing. We don't know if this HTML5 will rule the world or if the XHTML people will sort of take over. Roll back, like, okay, 5 years perhaps, 6, 5. It was a sort of competing. Should we do HTML5? It's a more flexible, easy, not so structured, well, not so hard structure way. It's a smoother. Or should we do it like sort of XHTML? It's more about XML. If the document does not sort of, it must have a start tag, must have an end tag, must be in order, or I can't parse it. It will be a parse error and I won't display anything. So it's a much rougher way, very useful in some senses. But for now, it's HTML5 that is sort of ruling the standard way of how we write websites for now. And it's, I really don't know, 5.1, 5.2, 5.3. I haven't checked it up lately. It's more or less the same for me. HTML4 is a sort of, it's an older standard. And some of these, when you look up these 120 HTML elements, they are sort of matched into one of these standards. So if you are really going to be a pro sort of web programmer with this, yeah, you might want to know a bit more about this. But in general, you will do fine. The main change with this HTML5 then, so like, well, 5 years ago, 4, was that before we had a lot of these, let's call them anonymous elements. They was just called a div and a span. So div was a box, and span was to span some lines of text. And then you could style those with CSS classes and so, and make them look how you wanted. So some websites will consist a lot of div elements, or any structure element would be a div and have some content in it. And a lot of span to apply style to inline elements. And then sort of those who were in charge of the standardization, if you say so, or just common people like you and me who want to sort of drive the development further, we said, it shouldn't really look like this. We have HTML documents and it's a lot about divs and spans and it's flexible, but shouldn't really look like this. So one driving force behind this HTML5 was to add semantic elements. So let's put semantics into the web. So when I put a footer element out there, instead of div class footer, now maybe I just put footer out there now. Or, okay, I put footer class page footer. So it's not too different. But this footer header, nav for navigation, article for content, section for being a part of an article. It brings a bit more sense to the content of the web page than just having div. So, and that was one large driving force that we see today. So we see a lot of this today. We shouldn't do this only div and span. I do a lot of divs, yes. So it's not forbidden to use them. It's fine. But let's mix it up. So there are, when we look at this web page content then, there are two main categories of the HTML elements we put into the web page. It's block elements and inline elements. So block it's an element that takes up the whole width of the page. So it's let's just think of it as a what is it? Not a square, but rectangle. And in it should be some type of content, but it's a box. And then we have these inline elements. It's text, pure written, sort of the text, the characters I write into it. And maybe I want to do it italic, strong, bold, emphasize it. Let's put an image into this text flow. So it's a flow of text, and those are inline elements. So we have block elements and inline elements, and they behave a bit different when it comes to how to style them. So these block elements, they respond very much now to margin, padding, sort of having borders around them. So this type of structure. And when we come to inline elements that are supposed to be visible in a text flow, they doesn't behave that well when we're adding a margin to a bold text or padding to a bold text. So it's a block elements for these boxes. Inline elements, it's text. And that is useful to know when we move on to CSS and how to style these elements. See how they look like. Okay, style. Let's see about style. Okay. I think I'm going to try open this in a browser. This is just this is a web page with pure HTML. It's no style applied. So only content in markup. It's the basic document. So let's take the same document and just add some style. Yeah, it will look something like this. So anything that I'll go back, some kind of standard style it is. So there are the header up there, it is a header. So it looks a bit different than the actual text. So there are some basic styles applied to a web page. The standard says, well, if you say HTML element for a header, it should actually look like this in a standard way when displaying it in a web browser. So it has some tiny style applied to it, coming with the standard. But then we add a lot of styles. It looks like could look like this. And just so if let's see if I succeed in putting it up here. Oops. So we could just review it maybe. So I have page, no style. Let's see it. So, yeah, but I'm going to do page source for now. Yeah, if we want to see how the page looks like, we can do it in two ways. Suggested, inspect element, and then we're gonna hang on there later today. But we could also do view page source. And they are a bit different, those two. And so if we do view page source, this is the pure document that is retrieved from the server. This is unformatted. This is what the actual web server just sort of. This is what you get, browser. Try to deal with it. So this is an important point of how can I check up on the flow all the way from the server and how it looks in the web browser. So this is how it looks like when the web browser gets it. If we are dealing with some server-side scripting, like we will later on for example PHP, this is how the document would look like when the web server has processed all PHP programming on it and delivered an HTML document to the web browser. So let's see how it sort of just looked like. Okay, we got the doc type, we got the HTML, we could put the language attribute here, there, yes, they usually want to have that. We got this head section here. We got the character set. I always put it up. One of the first elements it should be. Always have a title. This actually has some style applied to it. It says background color, white. Well, that's the default background color anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Then we have some, this is done pre-HTML5. It's a lot of, you see, this is, if you see a web page like this, yeah, you can assume it's sort of, it has no HTML5 elements. It's just div, a wrapper for the whole content. So obviously, the one who wrote this, yeah, like me, like to wrap it all in a wrapper. And then we have a footer. In the div, we have an anchor, so it's a link, and some text, and a copy, so copy sign. And we have some content. We have a header. We have another header. You can have header 1 to 6. Use them like you, well, assume they should work. Header 1, header 2, yeah. We have an image. The standard really anytime we have these type of images and link to them, they really want us to put an alternate text. If the image cannot be displayed, let's show up this text instead. So, if we want to validate, we should have this alt. And as you see here, image is also sort of a one element tag. It's a start and stop tag within it, so it doesn't have a content, the image. Yep, paragraph, inline emphase. You know, I said this BR element. There is really there's no how to say it. You should not have many opportunities to use this BR element. When we are writing documents like this in a text flow, we mainly use paragraph. So it's a paragraph, and we add some margin at the bottom to it, so we get some space, reading lines. This BR, sort of break or new line, it's sort of hard-coded stuff. It's not really how we do stuff in the web. We put up mainly paragraphs, and then we style them to make them look good. This BR is sort of a element with hard-coded style, and that is not how we do it. So, and we have this top, just to see what it contains. Another image. There we have this span. Okay. ID. We're using ID to style it. If you are sort of experienced CSS styling people, you wouldn't like to style with this. You wouldn't like to style with ID. You would like to style it with a class attribute instead. So, but we'll do this this afternoon. We can do this. Oh, here we have an HTML5 element. It's a navbar. Okay, nice. Navbar is just this collection of two links. Okay, so we had that one, and just let's see how it would look like when we add this style then. There we go. And let's see, page should be that one. Okay, so here we'll have this page. Let's see, view page source. View page source is like like a debugging tool. And one nice way of this debugging tool is that I can actually click on these resources that the web page contains. So in this web page, like you see, if you are the browser again, you will get this web page, this text document we look at, and then we will scan it, and then you will see, okay, this web page contains additional resources. I need to download them also to make it, well, to be sort of show it off. So when I have this view source code, I can click on them and I can see if they can be found, and I can see what they contains. So now I clicked on the style sheet. Looks a bit like this. This is all the style that was applied to make it look nice. And we have this image. I can click on that to ensure that that is working. Whoops, it's a small Michael. And we have the teddy bear. I can click on that to see that yes, the teddy bear works. There is some kind of link. Maybe I could click on that. I maybe get an error. Yeah, I don't mind. So, okay, so it's this is how the document works. One main document, and it contains additional resources that was also downloaded. So if we are going to see that, we can stick around here. We can do inspect element like we proposed here. So inspect element, or F12, sort of development tool for the web page currently displayed. And what we'll get up there when we have the inspector is a way to sort of, I click there, and I can sort of inspect the whole page, and it helps to think on the page as a tree structure. It's a tree structure. The document HTML, it's the top tree, then it's split into head and body, and then we move on. So in the body there will be sort of, for this page, the div wrapper, and the div wrapper split into 3 other divs: top, middle, footer div, and so on. So it's a tree where we can walk into, and this is the this is inspector helps us sort of which is this element or this element or that element, and I can click it and I will get it up here. So the representation of that element, it was an A, so it's an anchor there. And that is HTML on that part. And on the other side, here, I can see the style. So this is the style currently applied to the element. And I can see that these are the labels of it. This is how it's named, the rule in the style sheet. I can see that this particular rule is applied. And there is another rule. So we have one rule and we have two rules. So there is a rule set. So each element can have many rules applied. And any new rule may overwrite the last one. So if we want to see what style is applied to this element, we can get it up here. And the top one is the most sort of current. We can play around with the style, make it look a bit different. Or, well, maybe we can sort of apply those style. So this is a sort of a development tool to make your page look nice. Sometimes it's easier to sit here and have sort of font size 24 EM. Oh. Font size. Yeah, but what did I style? I styled the link. When I use hover it. Oops. Let's style it like this then. Let's see. Font size. I must be able to change it somehow. 24 pixels. Oh, yeah, I did it. 42 pixels. Yes, it's larger. Yeah, you get the meaning of it. It's a nice sort of debugging and development tool to do small fixes and see changes before you apply them to the actual style sheet and reload the page. So it's a nice way to sit here and do changes. Okay. Before we leave this, let's see the network tab. So I will reload this page now. So, whoa, it's a lot of stuff. Let's see if I can make it a bit bigger. Yeah. So I will load it again. So these are all the resources that is loaded with the page. So then you see we have the main page that is sort of corresponding to the actual URL or the link up there. It gets this page HTML. It says 200. It's status OK. I got it. And then the browser takes it in. It parses it. It takes it in, and we get this view source code. That is what we get. The browser takes it, started to parse it, and applies these optional stuff, tries to guess if we had a more malformed HTML document was applied. It applies some guessing. And when it has sort of guessed the whole page, we will get this view of the actual sort of HTML document interpreted by the web browser. So the stuff we see here might differ from the view source code. And that is nice to know. Okay. The first thing it will find, oh, I got a style sheet. It's an external style sheet. Let's get that. And it gets style CSS, and we got a 200. Nice. It finds the image on the small Michael. It finds the image on the teddy bear. And the small image there, it's 304, it's not modified. It's actually cached by the browser. So it doesn't have to get it since it hasn't changed. So it's a caching mechanism. This is this teddy bear. I would say that this is a, I think you could have it. It's found, but it's, well, what is it? It's moved permanently. So these are sort of, we found it, but it's not on this particular link that you set up. It's on another link. So you have to go there. And the web browser does that. So, okay, the document wasn't here. I go there instead. So this is some kind of redirection status codes. And when it actually finds it on the right place, perhaps it was a difference between HTTP or HTTPS. Small stuff, maybe. When it actually finds it, it's a 304, so I already got that. It's cached. So I retrieve the image from my local browser cache. And last thing, it's a favicon. But if we actually look at, did we have a favicon on the, no, the favicon. The favicon is the little, as you see up here, it's the small image shown on the browser tab. And I didn't put up a favicon here. So why did it look for a favicon? Should be in the head. So there I can specify what image I would have. But it's actually, well, the browser is happy to try to find it anyway. So it always does another sort of request, trying to get the favicon.ico because it's standard, and it should really be there in the root of the sort of web server where I'm getting this from. But it's not here, so it can't be displayed. So the browser does more requests than you sort of normally knows about. And one nice thing to know, if I do a C3 control reload or command reload on my Mac here, I will get the same output anytime. Well, I see the sizes and so stuff. Maybe we'll talk about these sizes and load time, sort of section 09 web performance, something like that. Then we can talk about that. But one nice thing to know is when I do shift control reload or shift command reload. Shift. Shift. Oh, I did a F word. Why does it not work for me?
Supposed to root the cache, right?
Yeah. I really don't have an answer on that. One common problem when you work like this is that you have this browser cache, as I have now, and the stuff is in the cache, and you are sort of developing on your server side, you're loading stuff, and you're sort of forgetting that, oh, the browser caches stuff, and you sort of, why does it look like this? I changed that document. Why can't I see it? And then I was supposed to show off when I do shift command reload, I will sort of pass the, but I do, don't I? No, I should, shit. That's a way to sort of pass the browser cache. And I was expecting to get sort of 200 on these two images also. Not 304 that is saying that they are cached locally. I should get 200. But, well, whatever. We can think about that during the break. So we take a break and we start 20 past. And then we move on with a bit CSS and some JavaScript. Okay.
Solid.